Alright, today we're going to be working on lesson 1-8, and it's adding and subtracting polynomials. So far we have learned about what's called a monomial, and you guys may not recall this, but remember there were three parts to a monomial, okay? The first part was it could be a number like 1, 2, 3, 4. It could be a variable x, y, x times y, or it could be the product of numbers and variables, something like 2x or 1/2 x y squared z to the 7th, okay? So just keep in mind that monomial has three different parts: a number, a variable, or when I multiply a number and variable. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work on polynomials, writing them in standard form, and we're going to work on adding and subtracting them, which is really just combining like terms. So on the first example here, it says determine whether each expression is a polynomial. If it is a polynomial, find the degree, and then determine whether it's a monomial, binomial, or trinomial. Okay? All right, so when I'm looking here at example 1A, let me get that. Okay? The first thing I'm looking for is is this a monomial? All right? Is it a number, a letter, or when I'm multiplying them? So in this case, this guy right here would be a monomial because it just has a number, okay? And the degree for this guy is all based off of exponents of the variable. So since there are no variables, my degree is going to be 0, okay? And again, the reason is because there's no variables. Okay? All right, so let's look at example 1B now. Okay, the first thing you are always going to have to do on any of these problems before you talk about anything about monomial, binomial, degrees, any of that stuff, is you always simplify. So in this case, I'm going to take 4c plus 2c and get 6c. And again, this would be a monomial because it is the product of a number and a variable. Now, again, when we're looking at degrees, we're looking at the variable. And in this case, it would have a degree of 1 right here with that c. So my degree for this guy would be 1. Okay, so now let's go to 1c here. Okay, so first thing we do is combine. Can't combine. So now I'm looking at, okay, if there are two parts, that is a binomial. Two parts meaning bi. Monomial, mono means one. So the other two had just one part. So since this has two parts, this is a binomial, and it cannot be simplified. And when we're looking at degrees, we're looking at them individually. So I have one guy here, another guy here. And what I'm going to do is just pick the biggest. So I have a degree of 1. And for this guy, I have 1 and 3. So my degree here is 4. So I have a 4 here and a 1 here. So now all you're doing is picking the bigger number. So my degree for this binomial will be 4. All right, so for 1D, again, simplify if you can. All right, and so I know from the last chapter that I cannot have a negative exponent. So I know that that a is going to have to drop down. So I've got 7 over a to the third plus 9b. Now, we have a problem here because this guy right here is not a monomial. Remember, it's the product of a number and variable. We can't divide. So because of that guy, this is not a polynomial. And if it's not a polynomial, there's no degrees. There's nothing you can do with it. Okay, you can't classify it as a monomial, binomial, trinomial. There's nothing we can do. All right, and the last example for example 1 here, 1E, okay, is again simplify. So if I'm looking right here, I can go ahead and combine like terms. So I have 6x to the third plus 6x minus 3. All right, so now in this case, I have 1, 2, 3 parts. That makes it a trinomial. 3 parts trinomial, 2 parts binomial, and 1 part would be a monomial. All right, again, I'm going to look at degrees, and I'm looking at each individual guy. So this guy right here has a degree of 3. I have a 1 right here, so this is a degree of 1. And there's no variable on the 3, so I have a degree of 0. So for my degree on this problem, I'll have a 3. All right, and now let's go down and look at example number 2. And for example number 2, it says write each polynomial in standard form and then identify the leading coefficient. All right, so now standard form, guys, just means put it from the biggest exponent. All right, so I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. Okay, on standard form, I'm going to underline this here for you. And again, it's going to be the biggest exponent to the smallest. Okay, so we're going to go down here and look at 2a. All right, so again, biggest exponent. So I'm looking at my exponents. I have a 5, I have a 2, and right here I have a 1. So I'm going to put 4x to the 5th plus 3x squared. Remember, keep the signs with the number, minus 7x. All right, so that would be our standard form. Let me look at the directions here. And then it says identify the leading coefficient. So my leading coefficient is simply whatever number is out front. So my leading coefficient here will be 4. All right, and let's zoom here. The last one we're looking at together will be 2b. All right, again, putting it in order. I've got a 1 here. I have no exponent here with the 9. I've got a 4 and a 3. So I have negative 2y to the 4th minus 6y to the 3rd plus 5y minus 9. So in order for the exponents, and then my leading coefficient in this case, again, will be right here. So my leading coefficient is a negative 2. All right. That concludes the first part of 8.1. So now you'll need to try to do those few problems on your own and then continue on with the next videos.